still
Oh, I
got
thought
Well, look, that's what I was asking.
Didn't come across that way.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I guess it's possible to say, call this meeting to a workshop to order? Yep. And then all present.
Yes. I did print out everything for you. So what we put together was jumping off from the Don Garish workshop on kind of, I think, an effective place to start. We knew that our bylaws are outdated. There's things that, common practice we haven't been doing.
You need something?
New glasses.
Yeah, pair of glasses. I only have 3 and they're all home.
Just
I can get by.
Jackie might have something.
I can get by. It's just that.
So last fall I prepared, Kathy asked me to look at the bylaws and some of the updates that we needed. And I sent this to her in December, but we decided to wait until after Don Garish, we could sit down and all go over and get a kind of new set of eyes to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have is a draft, and only the changes that I've put in there were based on some of the inconsistencies that we had. Our meeting times have changed.
He printed this out for us.
Yeah. I just haven't found mine yet.
It's
I
not
did
in
this
the
file.
I've got 2 here.
You got 2 here? Well, maybe that's wrong. I don't have one.
So I can jump down through it pretty quick, at least on the changes we were talking about. And then this is, the ability to use this as the opportunity to change the way that we kind of want to operate. This is the best way to do it. The only thing that was not added, that was added, based on Kathy's request, was the council discussion of topics not on the agenda,
Okay.
down under 5.1. I had added that in, and this is where, we have the ability to start talking about public discussion periods, how we want to limit or not limit.
Oh, right, because they're 5 minutes and some people only have 3.
Right.
They're purple, I'm sorry.
Wow. Well, if I get so you really need them, I'll after you and we'll run. Jeez.
So as Don mentioned, it would be effective to be able to readdress this every year with
For
a
small
new,
people.
with a new council coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Think small.
Huh?
Think small.
Address every
It'll
year
slide
in
down.
the second meeting in June.
Second meeting in June or August, depending on, and that's where, at a future workshop, I've started developing, getting ahead of myself. I wanted to pull it together today, but got sidetracked. A yearly schedule, month by month, everything that the council does and you should expect every month, and what I do from the manager's seat every month. So that we have a running list of things that we do have to do. Same thing with some of the clerks, tax clerks and elections. There's stuff that we have to have at certain meetings every year, so we can have one concise running list that we haven't had before.
I think that's a good idea.
So I've cultivated most of what we had for clerks, treasurer, elections. We've worked together, and I've had a couple people look at it, and I want to get it in front of you all, so that we can start on that. But going down this in order, 1.2, actually no, 1.1. We've been operating meeting at 6:30 instead of 7 p.m., so I made that change. 1.2, all reports, communications, resolutions, documents, or matter to be submitted to the council shall be delivered to the clerk's office by end of business. It was on Wednesday. I moved it to Tuesday. Gives us the day to prepare, because by end of business on Wednesday is really when we have to have it out to meet our 5-day deadline.
If something by us had to be put on the agenda, we can do that rules of.
Yes, and that can always happen. Yes, and I think the staggering issue on some of these days is when I believe the council used to meet on a different day, not on Monday. I think it used to meet on a different day of the week, which is why the days set in this are just different. Same thing, the agenda will be delivered to the council and posted by the manager at the end of business day on Wednesday. It used to say Friday, but for Monday, a Monday meeting, it wouldn't give us enough time.
Okay, so I don't know as though prior to you, people had access to the agenda earlier anyway, because you start putting it on here.
Yeah, I start putting it on whenever I start
Do
building.
you know this?
Yeah,
That you
I-
can view it, do you know you can view it on here as he prepares the agenda?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, as you're preparing it, I haven't tried to do that, I mean,
Yeah, just so we know to
Yeah.
review if you wanted,
For some of them, I mean, I wanna say 3 days after our monthly meeting, I get the water department report for the previous month, because that's their billing cycle for them to get me the report. So I'll start dropping all that information in as soon as it comes in. And when I get back on my feet a little bit, I try and set up a couple of months out, so that we're kind of planning, especially usually in budget season, so I know what information's gonna hit what council meetings.
It used to be, Tasha, they would tell us when our iPads were ready, and that's when you saw the agenda. You didn't see it before.
oh, you could pick up your iPad?
Yes.
They didn't have access to log in online, so when I started, the protocol is you'd only get your iPads at the table, and then you'd have to leave them here, and then I'd have to manually create the agenda and then slide all the information manually through iTunes onto the iPads.
Oh.
I wanted to be able to, especially make sure that with the new ones, you can use it, you can access the ordinances, the governance docs, and the history of all the meetings. So, I mean, you have the ability to start going back yourselves. And it's just more convenient. The special meetings on 1.3. So it originally read, if possible, at least 24 hours before a specified meeting time.
But does that go against the charter?
But it would go against the charter,
Okay.
where the charter doesn't make a distinction for a special meeting or a regular council meeting based on those 5 days previous. So I've modified that to at least recognize what is spelled out in the charter, which is the 5 days prior. Which even with a special meeting, it's not the end of the world. Like an emergency meeting, we have the ability to react to some, situations, even like today. We may, I'll bring it up during council discussion topics as well, but I can still bring other stuff up. Real emergencies, emergency appropriations, we have protocols in place for that. Even if we lose a plow truck and have to buy a plow truck in the middle of a natural disaster, we already have things in place that allow us to do that, and then we come back and work with the council after.
Okay.
And that's what really the definition of some of the emergency purchasing procedures. And at any point in time, kind of going through these, if there's other things, or if you guys had ideas on sections or changes, chime in, please. The next thing I changed was 2.4, the recording secretary.
You did add a word before,
Second
at the top of the
title.
page, very top of the page, if you just want to see you added a word.
Yep, I did add a word there, and it was the purpose of one MRSA. I just added the word title so we know it's titled MRSA. Thank you. I don't have a colored copy.
Well, I'll get you a copy in a moment.
I was thinking that same thing, that on here, on my
Sad day.
iPad, you could see the changes because they were in red.
Well, that's why I started putting them out I had to print them into a PDF so you can see them, because if I send you, and the same thing, I can't open Word docs on my phone, which is where I was trying to do the press release today. It's not always easy. What was the original? I had it created now, 2.4, recording secretary. The town clerk will serve as a recording secretary and shall be responsible for taking and transcribing of all official council minutes, which is what is established in the charter. Before it was recording secretary. I wanted to kind of clarify that. Formatting on decorum and order, it was one massive paragraph. I broke it up into multiple paragraphs. And I know that is something that we've spoke about. Dawn also talked about kind of decorum and order, and I think, it's actually the longest section in our entire bylaws on how to operate, or what we can do to maintain decorum. So the quorum question was something that I didn't look at, but Don mentioned, correct?
Yes.
There's only three of us.
2.7, a majority of the council constitutes a quorum. If less than a quorum convenes at any meeting, the majority of those present may send for any and all those members absent. If a quorum cannot be obtained, the meeting may be adjourned as provided by Rule 4. The council may opt to continue in a workshop session as a committee of the whole.
Was the quorum question on this or in the charter?
I think it was actually in the charter.
It was in the charter, because in the charter it says something about like the rec committee can meet, and if they only have 3,
And we can be,
then someone from the council can vote, but then someone will be voting twice. So I don't think it was this, maybe that's
He
why.
discouraged that to her.
he did.
Did.
Yes.
No, there was something in the charter, which is obviously a little harder for us to change.
Right, but you didn't say if you do one thing in something like that?
Oh, yeah, it would be that one, yeah.
He also discouraged if there's just 3 of us. It's not,
Having a meeting.
yeah.
But so what does this say? It's the council may opt to continue in a workshop session?
Yes,
So a workshop would be different than a council
Yeah, we
meeting?
can't pass anything. or
It would just
vote.
be discussing.
Just discussing.
Right, so we could convene, but that would be, 2 of you would be essentially the ability to sit in a workshop, because that would be the only way that we would not have a quorum. Let me pull that up real quick, because I feel like I'm missing something on that quorum discussion, because his.
Another thing
Yes, sir.
I think that was brought up too is that, if we have 3, it's quorum. But that shouldn't be only 2 people passing stuff. It should be, if we only have 3 of a quorum, everybody has to vote the
Yes.
same way or don't pass.
And now that you mentioned,
That's in the charter.
that is what he said, because
Yeah.
what it establishes is the quorum of a council is 3, and the charter establishes a majority of the council members present, which would be 2, would be able to pass ordinances,
Yeah, he-
which would be what he was concerned with.
I thought when we were going through the recall though, that it essentially said that even if there was one person left, that they could have still made decisions because it was,
There was,
No,
Only-
I don't think so.
there was.
Find that for us, Julie, because
I believe that there was only one thing that they could do where if there's not enough people to convene, that the one person left has like 2 orders that they could do. One would be to call for a special election type deal. So that they really,
Yeah,
they can't
I would-
operate, they can only,
Right.
call for meeting.
Call for-
Yeah.
I believe you're right, Keith. If there was only 3, all 3 would have to vote in the affirmative to pass anything.
Well, I don't know if that's the way the charter is right now, but that's
I thought
something
that's
we
what
should
it was in the
change.
charter.
I would think that the people before us would say what a quorum is and who could vote.
Well, you know,
One would
I
think,
don't
no one
think-
can assume.
I don't think that, too many people looked at the charter.
Yeah, but the people who
Well,
are
that's
writing it,
not-
I hope did.
so
I
if
don't
I
think so
can
many of them.
jump in
I
on,
served for 2 years, I know.
I know.
You're not supposed to say that out loud.
on section 10 in the charter,
That you didn't read the charter before.
Well, hey, truth's the truth. That's true.
it reads as follows, this is page 7 of the charter. A majority of the council shall constitute a quorum for transaction of business. A simple majority votes of those councilors present shall be registered in favor of passage of an ordinance. A smaller number may adjourn from time to time. At least 24 hours notice of the time and place of holding such an adjourned meeting shall be given to all members present at the meeting from which the adjournment was taken.
But what does that mean
So
at the end?
the second part is, if there's a meeting and say someone has to leave, and that person leaving would reduce us below a quorum, we could adjourn that meeting. So that meeting was scheduled to happen on February 1st. At that meeting, we adjourned it, or under rules of decorum, if it was out of hand, the chair could unilaterally adjourn the meeting, and we could reschedule that specific meeting within the next 24 hours.
Oh, okay, so that one wouldn't be, it wouldn't be 5 days, is basically what
Right,
this is
because
saying.
it's technically the same meeting, we're just going back into a previously stated meeting. Which is, yeah. But you're right, the problem we have is that it's in the charter where it says a simple majority of those councilors present, which means even by modifying the bylaws, we could put something in the bylaws that state, it would,
What is
again,
a simple majority?
a
Does
simple
that mean
majority
if
is
there's-
2
If
of
only-
3.
If you have three and 2 vote, that's a simple majority.
And we're saying that it should be all 3. We're thinking that
Well,
it should be all 3.
it doesn't seem like a very good idea to have 2 people passing something
Right, out of 5, when there's really
Yeah.
a group of 5.
when you're supposed to have 5.
Yeah, okay.
So potentially in lieu of looking for a change to the charter, we could work it into the bylaws that really just state, you know, as practice, we would recognize that we would avoid simple majority votes, you know, under a quorum. Just so that wouldn't potentially become a problem.
Would you have to spell that out? A simple quorum meaning 3 or less?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want.
So
any
this
kind of
says a simple
discussion.
majority of votes, and this says a majority of a council constitutes a quorum. So is a majority 3, and but a simple majority would only be 2 of the 3,
Yeah.
or
So-
3 of 4.
I don't think I don't think a majority would be 2. Out of 5 of us, I don't think.
Well, but
they
if
would.
only 3 are present.
It's only
I know,
3
but that
present.
isn't a quorum. I know what is, but out of 5 people, 3 can't show up. 2 people shouldn't be allowed to make.
Yeah, and that's what we're all saying.
Yes.
So, but that's what a simple majority is, so we need to take that,
Yes, we need to
Oh,
be more specific.
but, so we need to take that out of here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the legal definition for a simple majority is the majority in which the highest number of votes cast for any one candidate, issue, or item exceeds the second highest number, while not
Constituting?
constituting an absolute majority. Thank you.
See, again, that's ambiguous. That-
I know, I'm still clear as mud.
Yeah.
To me, that's saying that 2 you have only 3 councilors, which gives you a quorum, but then 2 voting as a simple majority would pass.
Anything.
Yeah, so I think we need to take simple out of here, right? Is that what we need to do?
Well, you would want it to be
Well, I don't know how to
unanimous,
write-
right?
how-
If there
yeah,
was
how
to
3,
word that.
Do you know how to word that?
unanimous
That
vote,
should
not a
be-
simple majority vote.
Yeah, let me look at 3.2.
If you have,
Wait, am I on the right page?
only
Oh, no, it's here.
That would be mine.
enough members to make a quorum, then any issue before the 3 they all should have to vote. Right, if they don't pass.
One more time.
Nope, one above.
Well, if we have only 3 people
Yes.
out of 5,
Yes.
that gives us a quorum.
Yep.
And it would be a legal meeting, but it should be changed somehow so that all 3 people have to vote the same way.
So what would that be then?
It would have to be a unanimous vote.
Unanimous vote, okay, so that's, it's the wording that we have to change here. It's just the
Right.
wording, it's just simple words that we need
If
to,
you had 3, then you would have to be a unanimous vote, not a simple majority.
Right.
okay. So, now where did I see that simple majority?
That's,
Yeah, we gotta take that out somehow.
That doesn't say so.
Well, where did I see simple?
Well, it just
That was in the charter.
Oh, that's, okay.
Yeah.
So that's in the charter, but we can have it in our bylaws.
We can set.
But if it's different,
We can set kind of more restrictive on ourselves than
Come here?
bylaws. Yes.
Okay,
So
but-
we're not violating the charter
we're being more,
by not doing
okay.
it. We're essentially just saying by practice,
We don't want any 2 members to be able to vote. We want it to be a unanimous 3.
Right.
If you have a quorum, which would be 3, we want it to be unanimous.
Eventually, we need to change the charter so that, because we 4 agree on this today, but 10 years from now, what's gonna happen?
and that's kind of, you know, the magic and the upside of the bylaws, you know, putting into a regular schedule every year to review the bylaws
Yeah.
that new councils can re-review and figure out if they want to operate, if they want to use that policy or not. I was actually looking for the county charter for the language, but it's not spelling it out the way I remembered from it on that quorum number. Oh, okay, so the lesser number of the county commissioners,
So,
they don't specify.
am I right saying that we would need to add, for the bylaws, we would need to add that it would be, need to be a unanimous vote to
For the-
pass.
For the minimum number of, I don't even know how to vote.
Yeah, it's that, a quorum is 3, so
Yes.
4, it still would be, it would need to be 3. Because if there was 4, it would need to be 3, and that would be better than,
So, a majority of the council constitutes a quorum.
Right.
Um,
and you could make tie.
With a quorum, the vote has to be unanimous.
Yes,
That seems very simple,
that's very
but I don't
simple.
know if that would be legal.
Would that fly? A majority of the quorum has to be
Unanimous.
unanimous.
If we only have a quorum present, any issues have to have a unanimous vote.
Right, and that's where, when I've seen it done before, per se in the county, where they'll actually say, they'll use numbers, so they'll.
Well, maybe we should do numbers then.
Yeah,
So I
Because
can
there's been
say-
5 for ages, right? 5
yeah.
council members.
As changes, a majority of the, 3 councilors present would constitute a quorum, and then we can have a clarifying statement that says, if only 3 councilors are present, a unanimous vote would be required to pass.
Yes, I like that.
Okay.
Can you write that down?
I'll do
So
it
we have
right
those
now,
words.
so you can talk amongst yourselves while I type.
I can't even think about how to spell unanimous.
It's been a long day.
I think there's a U in there.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 U's in there.
You know, Keith, when you came on and I came on, none of this was discussed with us. We was just thrown
Look
in.
how much we've progressed.
Yeah, serious, none of this was discussed, we just went along with the flow. So this is good, and the people that are elected in June,
We'll get a schooling.
yes,
Well, I read the charter. When I was running, I read the charter. Like, I was like, I was told it was the Bible. It's not that bad though, because a lot of it's,
Sure, it's not
the,
good.
well, the problem is though, is that it tells you you have to go back, unless you can prove otherwise from section 2.1. You know what it references.
Did you,
Nope. A letter from Mr. Beckett?
That
No.
just came
Can
today.
I read it?
Sure.
Is it just, oh,
says to the council,
Oh, okay. No, I didn't get one.
It just came today, it was only one letter.
I don't agree with it.
I said that letter just came today.
Oh,
And there was only one.
said a thank you for the Christmas card we sent him.
That was left to you by Kathy.
This is the kind of day I had. I
It's
went to
going
gym- I
around.
went to the gym today,
The gym,
and, yeah,
stop
and,
it.
and, after I get done, I'm changing my shoes, and I have a lift in my left one, so I took my left sneaker off, took the lift out, put it in my shoe, then I'm looking around, what the hell is my other sneaker? It's on my foot.
I do that sometimes with my phone. I'm like, where's
Oh
my
my
phone?
God.
I'm doing something on it with somebody else.
Don't let that information out just to anybody, all right?
Well, now it's on public record.
Oh, well, anybody knows me, they wouldn't be surprised.
How about quorum? 3 councilors constitute a quorum. If only 3 members are present, it would require an affirmative vote of all 3 councilors to approve a motion.
Bingo.
Yeah.
If less than a quorum convenes at any meeting, those present may send for the others, the original language. Where I'm lost now is, if a quorum cannot be obtained, the meeting may be adjourned as provided by Rule 4.
Does that also apply to, what, our departments or other meetings, planning board, rec department? Will this go to them also?
This is ours.
This is
This is
yours,
ours.
so they have a separate one that actually establishes those, which is in your folder under governance docs, but there's a separate one that we can address down the road. And we've started looking at some of the other ones and putting language together to see. Again, jumping off from what Mr. Garish was talking about on, the council kind of taking the lead on setting
Yes.
bylaws for
Yep.
committees and expectations and some of the even just the numbers, because there's a couple different places, again, rec in particular, where it says, one thing says rec is X number of members, and another document we have says it's another number. So we can start kind of addressing those.
We will start also working on the charter itself in future days.
If
Do
you
you all agree with
want,
Yeah, we need to address it because, well, maybe we start here and then we backtrack, because like the quorum thing,
Do you know the legalities on the charter as far as what we can and can't do to it?
We've gone in and out of it last year when we were putting a couple of things in there, because again, we only got one on there. It's hard to nail down because we're using MMA, which is free legal advice that we get from Maine Municipal, and they have a group of attorneys that kind of all have their own specialties, as well as Jack. And in some issues, neither of them will be as definitive on, well, this constitutes a substantial change and this wouldn't constitute a substantial change. There's a lot of wiggle room. I can pull together some of the advice we got last year.
Oh, yes, you did say that. There was room to move around.
And Don, I think, mentioned something similar as
Yeah.
well.
He did, he said we could probably change a couple things, but if you were getting it more into,
then you would need that commissioner.
you would want a commission, if you were gonna, he said one or two things is fine, but if you start putting 3, 4, 5 things that are changing.
And is it, so and that's when we could do it also on our own, or do you still have to put it to a vote?
It would all go through, and I believe it would all really need to go to the town
The town.
by referendum.
Okay.
Now, the question is, what substantial, do you need a commission or not? Because you can do, as Don mentioned, you could do a couple of things and it wouldn't be, but if you had one change that was a substantial change, like, then that would be a substantial change. And again, it's super subjective.
Mr. Beckett's letter.
Good time.
That's this one here, I guess, yeah.
See, but I don't know.
Oh, okay, so can I look at this one?
Yeah, some of 2.7.
Well, I see some information we talked about prior to you coming. We need to bring this up in the meeting.
So he is working on it?
She just asked him to talk about it. We need to discuss this. You need to bring it up in the council.
Right,
topic.
that's on the agenda, code enforcement information. I don't know what other information is available. Maybe-
Oh, no, we really wanted to know where it was at, because we don't even know, so we can't report on
Oh,
anything.
this, I don't have it. They're asking for my phone number. I assume, I'm not chair, but I'm vice chair. So I'm assuming that they want, my phone number and
Right, but I'm
they've
saying,
got, who wrote this?
look,
Kathy gave everything, she left you a packet and said this all needs to go to Keith. So I stuck it in
Who
your
was this?
office.
Kathy.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
So anything that you have is from
Yeah.
Kathy.
so she's turning it over to you, and so she was in touch with this guy.
Yep.
So it's now, we can't report on anything because we don't know.
You know as much as I do, like this
Yeah.
one.
Right.
Actually more, because you know where this comes from.
Well, that's because I listened to you. Okay, so you're going to add these changes in a different color or something
Yep.
for us to review again.
Yep.
So I think we could probably, we're,
And the next change, election of officers, we do,
Did you do 3.2, Jack?
nope, town manager 3.2. So what it initially said was, unless excused, town manager shall attend all council meetings. But it also said, except when the town manager removal is being considered. I removed that under the contradiction posed by our personnel policy and by state law that says if an employee is if there's a discussion of someone's removal, they have a right to be there as an employee to address it and to be a part of that discussion. It's unique that it was embedded in this document as well.
so it's state law that needs to happen.
And our personnel policy and employment law is
Okay.
employment law.
And that goes with everything that we've been saying. If we're talking about a person, and that person isn't here to defend themselves, not
Correct.
good.
can't do it then.
Right.
Town clerk, again, is the ex officio clerk of the council, keep books and minutes. Town attorney, chair of the council, any council member or town manager may at any time call upon the town attorney or a written opinion. And all legal correspondence individual council members shall be given to the entire council, all standard. Officers and employees to attend. We do not generally require people to be there, department heads, unless it's our budget season or something like that.
I did not know that we, as a council, had the right to get in touch with our attorney. I was under the impression that it was only you and Keith, but any one of us can.
According to this, correct, yes.
And he is aware of that also?
Yeah, you should respond to it. And it was a conversation that we had at the county as well, because the question is, when I was a county commissioner, the question was whether the county ran up a big legal bill before I started. And a lot of it, some of it, there was concerns that other commission members were going directly to the town attorneys, being involved and running up a legal bill that the attorney had full right to charge. But again, I wouldn't propose any changes. That was just an anecdotal of another.
But it also states that all legal correspondence to an individual council member should be given to all council members. So if you do that,
Yep.
then it needs to be sent to everybody. If
Correct.
anyone does it, it does.
And the only time I've done it was when there was a concern with 3 of us on the sanitary district, and it was brought to our attention.
Right of an appeal. Again, it's kind of very detailed way where a council member may challenge the ruling of the council. What I can already do.
Your next change is in 5.
It's 5. I do want to point out while we are here, every council present, when a question is put to a vote, shall vote either yes, no, or abstain by a show of hands. So, again, and really one of the things that started my kind of research into the charter changes and when things changed was the practice of the chair not voting.
Oh, yes.
That is not part of the charter anymore. That was actually dropped from the charter.
So the chair doesn't have to vote, but they can.
The chair
Oh, there's no
can
message.
vote and should vote, in my opinion, yes, because as I said, it says the chair would only vote in the tiebreaker, and that kind of defeats the purpose of it.
Well, ever since I've been here, 4 people would vote, and they say it was unanimous. Well, not really unanimous, there's really one person didn't vote.
Yeah.
Just to, devil's advocate, when I was at the county, there's actually, within their bylaws or the county charter that said that you cannot abstain from voting unless you have a reason, you announce your reason, and the rest of the commission votes to approve your abstention. And that was a little bit more so to say that, you can't have people just not voting. And I don't think it's really kind of been the case where people don't want to vote, but I think, again, it's kind of procedure. It's a unique thing I saw that was in the charter, but it is currently not in the charter.
Okay.
Excusable from attendance, appointments to town committees. Sorry, where was my next one? 5.1. Okay, this was the meeting order. So this is what, when I rebuilt my agenda when I started, was based on the approved order of things that we do have. So what I did actually add was 5.1.6, which is council discussion of topics not on the agenda. And I don't always include everything in the agenda. Like if we have no public hearings, I won't have a public hearing just to save space. I try to keep it on one page. This week I obviously couldn't do it. But this is where if you have any, we spoke with Mr. Garish on some towns have the community comment section at the end of the meeting type deal. Or they change the order or structure of agenda items based on the way they want to see their meeting run.
I mean, I don't know if it's really gonna matter, because the public comments is just for them to stand up and speak for 3 to 5 minutes, right?
Do you have a timer?
Well, I got one right on my phone. We'll use it.
It's gonna be 5 minutes.
Okay, well, yeah, I'll set it.
Actually,
But-
we're doing 3 now.
But so,
Well,
so,
I'm not gonna mention, but it's on the
Yeah.
agenda as 5 minutes, and we'll keep to that right now. I want to keep it at 5 minutes.
you do want to keep it at 5?
But,
You want to keep it at 5? In the future, you mean? Oh, tonight, yeah, well, it's on there, we have to keep it
Yeah.
then. But I mean, you mean to
in the
keep it?
future, we could, no, I don't care whether we change it or not. If we, decide as a council, we want to change it to 3 minutes. I'm fine
Right.
with that.
Just stick with it.
Okay.
It says on here that there's 5 minutes each on the
Yeah,
agenda.
so my point was that I don't think it matters where we put public comments. Because
Yeah.
they have the right to comment.
During a specific
During
agenda item.
yes, they have this, but it has to be, it can't be the same thing someone else said. They have to say, I agree with them, or they can ask a question, is that right?
Yes, I think.
And they can ask it of the chair?
Yeah, 'cause
Or
there
ask
is-
permission to ask
There
it
isn't
of us.
here, repeat, you keep repeating yourself.
Right.
We don't need people, okay.
Yeah. I didn't know that people could comment on something that we voted on. If we all vote yes on something, then somebody can come out and vote or complain about it.
Well, it says in no instance shall debate of an agenda item be allowed between members of the public and the council. No public comment should be allowed which has the effect of embarrassing or attacking the character, I guess that's not a,
No, they can ask questions, I think.
Any
anytime,
factual question.
Or on any item.
So when we're in
Yeah.
discussion about a certain topic, they can raise their hand and say,
Yes.
I'd like to,
Before we go to a vote.
before we go to a vote. And
Yeah.
after we vote, it's it, so.
It's done.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was the thing that allows them, the chair can structure it, what is it? Read the motions, town manager would present it, council discussion, open it up to public,
Yeah,
and then vote.
that's how I understand it.
And Julie did have a clarifying question, which actually is, because I know other towns do things differently. Rumford specifically had to be either taxpayer, a resident, or a voter to speak. We do have currently above that, correct, in 4.1.6, public comment not on non-agenda items, which specifies at each regular council meeting, there will be time devoted to any resident, taxpayer, or in the case of an organization, an authorized representative of a resident or taxpayer of the mechanic of, I can take that word out, mechanic of the town.
So that's the
mechanic
public
laws.
comment piece.
Correct.
Mm.
That is
So they
not
have
on
to
the
be
agenda.
a resident,
Yes.
taxpayer, or they have to run an organization in this town?
Well,
That
no, a
represents-
representative.
That's what I mean, so they don't have to live in the common,
Yeah,
or
they
be
don't
paid.
even have to be part of our town, and they could be representing somebody that does.
Right.
That could get kind of crazy.
Well, yeah, but
Well, I would think that would be limited to lawyers.
I've
Why
done
would
it.
why would, somebody from Oxford send somebody here to talk to us about something they
person.
want to do?
It did happen with the planning board because Rick Bennett lives in Oxford and he came in.
Yeah, their bylaws would be different. I did, so for community concepts, I had to go to the Rumford Select Board, and they're much more formal. But I had to be, as a non-resident, I represented community concepts to go to the select board to ask them to kind of join into a downtown revitalization program. So I was representing an organization to work within the
Right.
town, but I actually had to get them to acknowledge me, and then they had to have an affirmative vote for me to even be recognized and allowed to approach the lectern.
so I'm not a resident of, for example, I'm not a resident of Auburn, but I'm a taxpayer in Auburn, I own property there. So in that case, I would be able to stand up and talk, because I mean, if it were Auburn.
Well, wouldn't that depend on whether?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying,
Oh,
so
yeah,
for
yeah, I
Auburn,
see.
if this
If
was
they have
Auburn,
to say, yeah.
I'm a taxpayer. I'm not a resident, because I'm a resident of St. Paul's, but is that what it's saying?
Yes.
What I'm seeing this as is somebody that doesn't want a fence built in their backyard, and they're not very good at talking to the council, so a friend of theirs that lives in Oxford is coming here to talk to us for them. Is that allowed?
It would be a non-agenda item.
Yes,
Yes,
but it
yeah.
also is a representative of a
Uh-huh.
person, of a resident taxpayer, so that is allowed.
May I
You also need to think we've got a lot of elderly people in this town.
Sure.
And they might have a family member that comes on their behalf that's from another town.
So, do they need to state this? That I'm such and
Yes.
such? Because they need to say where they are, I mean,
Yes.
they're gonna say their address, and it's
I'm
not their
speaking
address.
for. So we do allow that, okay, that's fine.
Did you still have 5 minutes?
Did you, was that in that paragraph?
Yes, and then public comment on 4.16.
4.16.
5 minutes per person.
From numerical. So that would be the place if you guys wanted
Yeah.
to consider.
I would put a time limit on it, because you don't
Yeah.
want someone to take, there's a 30-minute maximum for this section, you wouldn't want someone to take all 30 minutes.
Right,
Well,
5,
it does say 5 minutes per person.
Where's that?
that's in the charter, right?
No, it's in that section. Bottom sentence starts with comments will be limited.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
it's
I
not
see,
numerical.
That's what I was looking forward to.
Okay, so it's fine.
5 minutes per person, there'll be a 30 minutes max.
Maybe we could change one or the other to numerical or word.
Did you want to keep 5 minutes?
That's kind of the proper way to do it.
Because, well, I think Don Garrett said that most towns would only give 3.
Well, yeah, you know what, if we're giving 5 to our residents, and this is a non-agenda item, it's something completely different,
You want to give 3?
we could do 3, I mean, it's,
All right, who's in charge, Robert?
3 minutes would be plenty.
I was gonna say, what do you say?
I want to know
Say
why we
three.
don't have a recycle.
Container
If
out
we're gonna change the time, we should have the time for everything the same. Even if it's 5 minutes.
oh, right, and this is our rules
Yeah.
at this point, so it doesn't, yeah, I agree there should be uniformity, because it's just gonna be easier. You know, for when we have the timer, just keep resetting it.
No.
Yeah.
That's what
What did you say?
It's a workshop.
It's a long, it is a long
5
time.
minutes, yeah.
They start repeating themselves,
Yes.
unless they have it in front of them, I don't do that.
Okay, 3?
B&I is only 30 seconds. and
Yeah,
they say a lot in
yeah.
30 seconds.
Wait, is it, your B&I was 30? We had a minute.
Oh, you had a minute. Oh, yeah. Manager minute, I guess. Okay. So, did you want me to look at that number in this draft?
Where else is there, where else besides the public comment is it 3 minutes, is it 5 minutes?
Don't believe that there is another
I
area.
don't see a time.
But it would
limit.
change, that would also change it on our agenda every week.
Yes. that
By
would-
changing this, it would change it to that.
Right.
And if we're gonna be here, we're gonna be doing work, and we're all agreeing on it, then I don't see why we shouldn't do whatever we're gonna do now to start the process,
Yep.
personally.
Oops, it's a 4.16.
No.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Milton.
No, how are you?
Can I make a suggestion? While we all have all of you here together, why don't we have a recycle can out by the trash can? I mean, it's full of cans and bottles out there.
The trash can is?
Yeah,
Somebody must have.
there should be a recycle can out there so that we can recycle.
Because no one.
You mean outside?
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, we're wasting money.
Well, Milton, you could go pick up those cans. That's what I do.
Well, the town could, you
So
know.
let's go back to the 4.16.
Oh, why not recoup it for
You know
a few
what
pennies?
may happen is
5 to
that,
3.
the town crew
Yeah.
take and dump that,
Yeah.
so maybe they're saving those bottles for their Christmas parties.
Well, fine, let's have another
I just hope they are being
Have
saved, because
another
I hate to see
container out
5
there,
cents in the
it's
trash.
easier for them.
Yeah, I do too.
I agree that the recycling, however, are you saying it's outside this building?
Yeah.
I don't know how much control you have over that. What would you say, Zach?
I know that the guy we have who empties the trash cans would not leave them there.
Okay.
No, he won't.
Yeah.
So there was the 5 minute per person. Don was talking about 3 minutes. Do you want to leave that at 5, or do you want to?
Well, the only thing I was thinking, you have on the agenda that they're gonna have 5 minutes. 5 minutes tonight, so we can change.
Oh, yeah, this won't go into effect. He's gonna put all of this stuff in new, and then we'll
Oh,
approve
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just,
I didn't-
a workshop. There's no,
Yeah.
nothing's concrete tonight.
So the procedure coming out of this is, in order to change the bylaws, they need to be read at a meeting and presented at a meeting, and then they can be approved and adopted at the next meeting.
Right.
So you don't have to read all of them, just the ones that we might change.
Yep.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to read them, we just need to provide it, post it on the
Right.
website,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
say that we'll have a public hearing at the next council.
So
meeting.
nothing happens tonight. So I guess I would say, as we keep going, or if you find, maybe you can do a search and find any place else there's 5 minutes and change it to 3.
Yep,
I just don't see any, I mean, if we see one,
I'll do that work.
please.
Before we get too far, again, sorry to back up one, 4.1.5, and this is something that we can be better at too. Appointments to committees and commissions, candidates after completing an application shall be interviewed by the council in public session before being considered. That is something that we have not always required people to show up for, say, appointments to like a library trustee.
Sure.
Oh, and this is what needs, this is ours, this is not the charter, this would be
Right.
a more, okay.
So that would be something, if we leave it, we can start, requesting when people hit the agenda, for an application to be able to be present.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that.
But it does specify council may waive the interview process requirement for reappointments and individuals who are already on other committees.
Okay, that's-
Saves time.
So then should be new appointments to town councils,
And the-
I mean, I guess, I don't know what, it's at the end, it's saying we can waive the interview process for people, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that we're not following it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes. And we can follow it.
Well, we follow it for the
We-
council, right? We just don't follow it for the others, right?
The trustees, we haven't always, and the committee, sometimes people do show up and they're involved immediately, and other times we don't know.
So then are we gonna require them to come to the meeting?
If we leave it in here, then yeah, I will.
We should.
And I think it makes sense if you were going to be appointing people to meet them.
Yeah, I agree.
Make sure that
I agree.
let people know.
So we just need to make sure we're following that.
Discussion of agenda items, this is what specifies, sorry, I'm at 5.2. Chair shall allow questions only during this time and no debate or discussion of collateral issues. Once agenda items have been explained by the town manager and clarified by any questions as provided above, it will be determined and voted for any resident, taxpayer, or authorized representative of an organization, resident, or taxpayer at the time mechanic calls to address the council regarding this particular agenda item. Once members of the public have asked their question or comment, the chair may, and that's a little bit more decorum on that.
So essentially, you just broke that up in a paragraph.
Yep, I did change that bullet point because it didn't make sense to be another bullet point.
Mhm.
Limiting repetition in comments.
Yeah, that's the one we basically need to be better about, I guess.
Well, that's where you get rid of that by shortening the time.
3 minutes.
There is, sorry, I'm jumping ahead to 5.4, procedures of motions. There was a cheat sheet that is actually in your folder that I developed in the very beginning. Motions and procedures cheat sheet. I used to actually put it on the back of your printed agendas, which kind of break out,
Wait, can you tell me which file folder it's in?
You got one.
it is town council governance documents, motions and procedures. Let me see if I can actually get this thing to print from here. I'm having trouble.
So the whole page is the cheat sheet?
Yeah, it's pretty much what I created as a cheat sheet. I was actually using it at the county. That's actually based on kind of this procedure in motion and Robert's rules. The types of motions is essentially where I usually get confused and it can be more in depth than I sometimes feel like it needs to be.
And to me, but I can print it off my computer, because it shut the comment right off. Sit call.
We have it right on our iPads, so we can get to it. If you don't want to print the waste stuff.
Nick and John
How
can
come
share.
I'm not
Use your
connected to
VPN.
VPN?
No, mine's all the time.
You don't need VPN if you're connected to the town network, so you should be able to go right into your folder.
Is it under the 2020 council meetings?
You don't, yeah, you don't
You
have to.
go
turn it
up a
on.
folder,
Just go to that.
and it is under town council and then governance docs.
Government docs.
Yep. I'm trying to build that out. I have not been scanning all the ordinances. Like I've been trying to. Motions and procedures. It's like 4 up from the bottom. And that's really what this next, 5.4 through 5.12 kind of breaks out.
So Julie, does that mean you have to say majority vote if the chair didn't vote? Because it says taken by a show of hands instead of unanimous?
Probably because, well,
Oh,
I think it was like,
No, I can't get it there.
because it has always been unanimous if you look back, but
No,
if you guys are just
What did you
going to.
It's my magic touch.
Vote,
Oh.
he said you have to vote no, regardless, because it's not in the
Right,
charter anymore.
Right, well, for it to
Is
be
there-
unanimous, all 5 would have to vote for.
On anything that you guys are motioning, the chair should automatically motion themselves as well.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the charter that you have to refrain anymore.
Right.
Oh, it was, though?
Apparently.
It
he
was
said-
until 2010.
Oh,
Is there a section that says on recording votes that says something about any person voting against a motion, their name is recorded as the way they vote?
I don't know, they get past, like other towns, and they just put like 3-1. They don't put who was against it.
And I want to say maybe it was at the county where we had to record who voted against it, because it becomes part of a public record, who voted for and who voted against it.
I would agree.
And I
But
think
most of
we've
the
been
time,
doing
it's
that.
never been, well,
Right.
and honestly, it hasn't been.
It's not
The
often.
council setting, it hasn't ever been, but in the planning board, it has been, where it's, it's like 3-2 or whatever.
1.13.
But if that's the case and you guys want me to put down. If it came down to opposite votes, do you want me to record who opposed to it as well?
I guess because it becomes public record, someone might want to know who voted for or against something.
Yeah.
People want to know.
I mean, I can't tell you the last time you guys actually had that problem, so.
I can. June.
Well, you voted against something. Yeah. You had it at,
June?
but just in 2 months ago. When I came on, you voted to not bring me on, so there you go. Zach, I can tell you when it happened.
And I probably just put 4-1 or something like
Yeah.
that, 3-1. But yeah, going forward, I can definitely record that if that's
I mean, they could watch the video.
And you'll
Oh,
see.
yeah.
Good. I'd rather read the minutes. I'm trying to watch
One of those.
You don't want to watch it.
torture.
And you were there. You know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, we're trying to find out something, to watch. It's real time.
Do you have to put that in the procedures?
That's what I was looking.
Motions,
I don't
5.4?
Fast forward.
Is it temporary?
Yeah.
You don't know
procedure
how?
Motions.
Hmm?
You don't know how to?
No.
Oh, you just touch your finger on it and move that little, if you know it's like halfway through.
Oh, yeah, but I always, I don't know.
No, I think
where
we
want
may
to
go up to
stop,
recording
so-
second.
Oh, well, if you think you know when about what it
Yeah.
was.
Where it specifies,
I'd rather read the minutes.
The town clerk, 3.3.
But something
2.4.
specific, like a motion that we voted on.
recording secretary, the recording secretary shall be responsible for taking and transcribing the official council minutes. You can set a minimum, the minutes will at a minimum include, votes taken and the names
So
of
we're
any
at-
counselors
Not yet,
voting.
but still.
Five
Opposed
past.
to motion.
7 past 6. Should we finish this?
You'll have to reword it.
Well, I mean, I think we should make sure we get through
Everything
this.
else.
So,
Nothing else for drawing?
Just, not.
no, so the only other thing when we were talking about recording and ingraining it in this document where we would record, vote results. Under section 2.4, under recording secretary, it currently says the town clerk will serve as a recording secretary and shall be responsible for taking and transcribing official council minutes. We could specify at minimum, the minutes would include any votes, any motions made, and the results of votes taken, including names of dissenting.
Sure. we have to have that on there anywhere, the camera? Should that be in here, or is that gonna be in the charter?
It's actually in neither currently.
Do we need to have something in
It's,
there?
it's going under, a previous motion of the council. I mean, you could
Yeah.
embed it in
You
this.
can have your phone together.
It's up to you. Do you, do any of you have a problem with that? Do we have to have something on this about the camera?
I don't know.
I mean, is the,
If, it wouldn't do any harm.
yes. Because if another, 10 years,
Yeah.
another
Well,
council
because
would
they
say we
can
want to
change
take it
it
out.
too. They can
Exactly,
change it
exactly.
if they want.
This is something we can change, or they
Yeah,
can
that's-
change.
Every council can change whatever way they want it. But I think it would
Would
be,
that also fall under the recording piece?
Yeah, I mean.
The recording secretary, like,
Would you basically just say that the meeting will be recorded?
Yeah.
Under that same thing, I could, under the recording secretary, add,
it would be
the meetings will be videotaped and uploaded on the town website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think just adding it there, because then they could just take that out if they don't want it. But that only started when you came, right, Zach?
Sure, yeah.
The state law says it just has to be recorded.
Right.
I have a question. No, Walker. Henry said that.
This is less
Do
official.
we have capabilities of putting this on the internet so that the townspeople can actually see the town council at work?
All of the videos,
Yeah.
they
No,
are on the internet.
No, but I mean, as it actually happens,
Live streaming would need a little hardware.
it would.
We would need something, and there's the cable franchise agreement, which was reapproved, which would allow us to have our own cable access station. But again, that would require even more equipment than we do currently have.
Oh, okay.
Some of the thought processes in the new building would be to integrate it so that we could have a system paid for as part of a new building that would make it easier for a staff member to just turn it on, have a couple
Installed at the
cameras.
same time as the new.
Right.
Do you want me to help you plan that?
Why don't you do the research?
No, no.
I have a question. Norma Crabtree, 23 Howland Avenue. I brought it up at least one other time, maybe two. What would it take, excuse me, what would it take to get town manager and/or town council to look into having a good speaker system where you each have your own individual speaker so that the people can hear?
Will that be in the new building?
No, we should have it before.
So before we hit the end of the workshop, we do have the ability, I could print if you wanted to move this forward with these changes. I could print it, suspend the rules in the next meeting tonight, and just,
Well, we could spend the
Acknowledge the
meeting,
changes.
or we could just do it in council, what the council wants, or does that have to be something official on the agenda?
the council can add it to tonight's agenda, with these changes. I didn't want to put it on because I didn't know how the workshop was gonna go
Yeah.
and if we were gonna feel comfortable with it. But the council has the ability to add it to tonight's agenda just to receive it, which means at the next council meeting, would put it out, people could review it, would have to hold a public hearing at the next council meeting, but that would be the earliest that the council could stop these changes.
These changes will be online, people can read them.
It'll be on the Facebook page,
So
similar
we
to what we do
wouldn't
with
be-
marijuana ordinances.
We wouldn't be able to put it into effect until March.
April, yeah, because it would be read tonight.
Yep.
Technically,
Because tonight, when we vote on it,
February, we would hear it tonight, we would read it.
yeah, you'd
Right.
receive it
Information.
tonight,
so
and
we
then.
can vote on it next in February.
Yeah,
and
I
practice it in
really
March.
have no, I don't really,
Right.
I don't feel like anything is like time crunching.
No.
So if you have it all written, sure, we can just add it to
Yep.
whatever you need
We can,
tonight.
and we can approve it next month.
Right.
And then practice it in March.
Well, yes, but we can start practicing the things that we're not practicing earlier.
Except the 3 minutes.
No, yes, but that's not, come on, we don't get a choice on the minutes.
How are you gonna present that?
He's gonna put it on, we're gonna add it to the
If
agenda.
not, let me email it.
And you present by just reading it with the changes.
So take the time to read the whole thing.
No, it's only the changes, not the whole
Print
thing.
4 or 5, maybe print 10 copies.
You think?
Decided.
Yeah, just send it to me.
Well,
I mean, I'm
then,
not against that.
well, then tell him, I don't care, I don't think it's urgent, but.
See, highlight them in red, put them on the
It'd be nice if it
webpage.
was available at least on paper.
That's what she's printing.
Oh, nice. Yeah, do that. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, that aside, I just
Do
hate
that
print
collating a
stuff.
lot of stapling.
Things.
Make that go needed. Do you want to adjourn the workshop?
Except that we lost our. Shows up late, leaves early, don't.
Let's do it that way, because that shows the
Well, we
track.
got a quorum.
We got a quorum.
They'll be unanimous.
Oh, yeah, see, that's what I print. Let me email it to you. Story of my-
Well, we can make a motion then. I'll make a motion to adjourn this.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Semi-unanimous.
Bingo, we're done.
Workshop's over.